It's a really meaningful program for the end users. That 50% savings is huge compared to market standard across the country of closer to 10 to 20%. So that provides really valuable savings. It's a pretty easy sale once you get over the mechanics of how community solar works.
In the world of community solar, few markets are as hot as the Illinois market. But what makes this market work beyond the various mechanisms like LMI and how that's structured is subscribers. So I'd like to give a little insight into what it takes to get and keep subscribers in a community solar program. I'm Nico Johnson, the host here at Suncast Media Zone, brought to you by Solar Simplified. We're live at the Midwest Solar Expo, and I'm joined by Sandyha Murali, COO of Solstice. So I think that there are a number of things that we could unpack, and I want to leave the broader discussion around subscribers as a second entree. As an appetizer, the structure that the Solar for All program is built around, a similar program in New York and in Minnesota, is to encourage community solar to have more equity and more diversity in terms of subscriber base, to give more access to solar. And the main reason that has been a concern for years is, well, those folks don't make as much money as the people that typically go solar. How do we actually underwrite that liability? And the people that have to do that on the front lines are companies like Solstice, the aggregators who go out and convince and educate and enroll these subscribers. So help us understand the characteristics of, in particular, Illinois, and maybe you want to touch on other markets to the extent that it's instructive, how the LMI, or the low to moderate income market in Illinois, is structured. And then we can talk about the process that you go through to enroll subscribers in that project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Program.
Absolutely. So the Illinois Solar for All program in Illinois is the dedicated LMI program. It's one of the best structured programs, I think, in terms of maximizing value and savings to subscribers. There's a required 50% discount that's required to be given to all LMI subscribers. And a majority of these projects are 90 to 100% going to LMI subscribers. And that's because there's higher incentives. The more LMI that you subscribe, you get the highest value on the REC contract. Mm-hmm. So it's a really meaningful program for the end users. That 50% savings is huge compared to market standard across the country of closer to 10 to 20%. And so that provides really valuable savings. So from our perspective as an aggregator, subscriber organization, when we're going out and pitching low-income households, eligible, affordable housing entities, it's a pretty easy sale once you get over the mechanics of how community solar works, because that 50% discount off of the bill credits is really meaningful.
Yep, and it's a guaranteed 50%.
Yeah,
anyone subscribing must be able to get 50% off of what they would have paid for that electricity.
Technically, they are retaining 50% of the bill credits that are applied to their utility bill. But yes, over the course of a year, it's roughly a 50% savings. And now under CEJA, we're able to basically allocate them credits to offset nearly their entire bill. That wasn't the case before. And so that's a great new development in Illinois.
Sort of like roll-up of like rolling credits at a phone bill.
Yeah, essentially. We can just basically offset more of the customer's bill. Before we could only offset their supply portion. And so that's a great development in Illinois that helps to enhance savings to customers. The other element is how customers are qualified, right? And how do you essentially prove that you're LMI?
Right.
Key for us in a great program is making that super simple, super streamlined, and as least invasive as possible. In Illinois Solar for All, you can qualify by showing documentation of government assistance program, third-party assistance programs, or you can geo-qualify coupled with a self-attestation. So you're in the right kind of census tract that's been tagged as LMI, and you say my income is below a certain threshold, and you can enroll. So it's a fairly not quite as cumbersome method of enrolling.
So in theory, there could be people who game the system because they happen to live in a geo-identified place and they self-attest. They lie.
There could be.
Yeah.
I think studies have shown both in energy and even in healthcare, where the concept of fraud is kind of a big concern, the incidence of that is very, very low. And it's not worth creating more barriers to entry, more hurdles to signing up, basically more ways that you make people prove they're poor, to ensure that sort of fraud doesn't happen. It's just not worth it. The gold standard, I would say, in LMI qualification would just be pure self-attestation. So customers say, I make less than, X% of area median income, however the program wants to define it. And that's it. And that's all that's required. I think you'll find that we will be able to sign up way more LMI households, expand our impact, and I will bet that there's going to be, less than 1% instance of fraud on that.
So your preference and your advocacy, in fact, would be to move towards a self-attestation, no income qualification, or no demonstration of income.
Exactly, no documentation. So New Jersey is a good example of this. They just approved self-attestation, which is very exciting. There are some other states that are considering it or have self-attestation coupled with that geo qualification. But we're really excited for the growth of the program, community solar program in New Jersey, because there's an LMI requirement coupled with this streamlined qualification. It should make for hopefully easier enrollment and just more impact happening faster.
Yeah.
So that's the second piece. The third piece is around billing, the billing experience for subscribers. Illinois now has consolidated billing, so the credits get consolidated on the utility bill and the customer's just charged. Everything is netted out on their utility bill.
How was it done before?
There would be two bills, right? So the customer would get their utility charges, all of their community solar credits on the utility bill. And then an organization like ours, Solstice, would then charge them for 50% of the credits they got in a separate bill. It's all done through auto pay, so it's very seamless, but it is another bill that the customer has to think about,
and
make sure they understand,
make sure it happened.
And we have to collect billing information, right? So if everything's consolidated at the utility level, we don't have to ask for payment information at the enrollment step.
Yeah.
And that also reduces a barrier to enrollment. So meaningful savings, streamlined LMI qualification, and consolidated billing at the utility level would be kind of the three hallmarks of a really great LMI program.
So you've identified a program like Illinois Solar for All, and you're going to go into that market. I look at this as like the fundamentals of business building. As they say, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? So there are two aspects to being an aggregator. One is getting customers, and the other is keeping them. I'd like to talk about both because I think that you have a particularly impressive track record and approach to the getting of customers. And then let's talk a little bit about the keeping of customers. One of the things that we were talking about in our last conversation was your data-backed approach. Could you give me a refresher on how you think about finding the right customer base that does qualify and do you believe would be a good fit for that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So we pride ourselves on being very knowledgeable and having a lot of expertise around program requirements, program rules, the regulatory requirements. And that sounds like how is that relevant to customer acquisition? But it impacts who's eligible for these projects, especially the Illinois Solar for All projects. That program, there's a really valuable rec contract behind it. We want to make sure that everyone who we're enrolling is qualified, is eligible, and that starts from the initial sales process. So we make sure that we really understand those program rules, and then our sales team engages with the eligible communities, right? The geo-qualified communities, develops engagement campaigns, customer outreach, and enrollment campaigns to then acquire those customers. We weave in the education of how community solar works all throughout our enrollment process. That helps create stickiness with customers, helps ensure they understand what they're signing up for, especially if these projects are 3, 6, maybe 12 months away from energizing and before they start seeing the benefits on their utility bill. We have a good understanding of which of our customers are most likely to churn, and by contrast, which are the stickiest. And so we try and kind of replicate that when we go out and acquire more customers for the same program. On the customer management side, how do we retain customers? We talked previously about our churn prediction model. And so this is where we look at all of our customer data and identify kind of the factors that'll make someone at high risk for churning. We call that, define that as our high risk group. And then we have a series of interventions to try and minimize the risk of churn with them, right? So we'll have more targeted outreach through different channels, email, text, phone. If we catch someone who's about to move, then we'll try and retain them, help transfer their subscription. So there are ways that we're implementing our churn prediction model to try and reduce the risk of churn of those high risk individuals. So it's one of the ways that we're using data to make sure that we're keeping customers. And I think all of this just comes back to our general approach, high levels of customer service, both for our developer clients but also with our end user subscribers. Transparent and frequent communication with those subscribers, especially when it comes to project delays. That's one big reason why customers will churn, is just because there's a long time between when they sign up and when they start to receive credits. And so keeping them warm, giving them transparent information about why there's delays and here's what's going on and this is what we can do for you in the interim. Those are all ways that we can keep those customers, keep them warm, keep them engaged until they start actually seeing the benefit show up on their bills.
Is community solar like other community choice programs where a subscriber could churn by going to another aggregator or another type of project?
They could.
Yeah.
They could. We don't see that happen too often.
Yeah.
I think when you're signed up and everything's working as it should be, you start seeing credits on your bill, you're seeing that value, right? And if you're in the Illinois Solar for All program, you're getting 50% savings off these bill credits, right?
And it's not going to be different
and it's
from
not going to
subscriber
be different.
to subscriber.
No, exactly.
From program to program.
Exactly, right? You're going to get that consistent
Provider,
level of
that's the word.
You're going to get that consistent level of savings. If you're outside of, or if you're in a different market, a different program, there may be slight variations in savings that might cause you to switch providers. But so far, what we've seen is if we're delivering a consistent customer experience, customers are generally pretty happy and they're not looking for other options. They're not continuously shopping for community solar.
Most people aren't thinking about their energy bills.
Most people are not
day.
thinking about their energy bills. I think there's a stat that you spend 6 minutes a year thinking about your utility bill. And so if they're happy and things are working as they should and we're providing communication as we should, then there's really little reason for them to churn. Main reasons people churn are because they move or otherwise, maybe they opt for rooftop and become disqualified for community solar.
One of the things that I've noticed as a customer of Duke Energy, I get bundled services, other offerings, right? Everything from my sewer line to my HVAC and lighting upgrades. Are there increasingly ways for aggregators to bundle services, or are there restrictions to what you can offer subscribers?
I think there are a lot of interesting partnerships that we can explore. Reducing one's energy burden before kind of electrifying it would be one interesting partnership, right? So partnering with an energy efficiency, kind of retrofit type of company to really upgrade the home and then sort of offset or opt into community solar to decrease the amount you're spending on that electricity. Can be an interesting partnership. There are some states that restrict whether you can do both rooftop and community solar. So if you opt for rooftop, but it doesn't fully cover your energy needs, then it would be great to supplement with a community solar subscription, but sometimes that's not allowed. In some markets it is.
What's a market where it is allowed?
I believe it is allowed in Massachusetts.
Okay. I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
Yeah, you are. But for example, New York, it's not. And that's a lot of times we get rejections from that because people already have, they've been waiting for a while and in that time they got rooftop, right? So then they get kicked off the project. But there are some interesting partnership opportunities to explore. And it's, I think not, when you're going in and pitching to a potential subscriber, you kind of want to keep them focused on the one thing. But I think there's, especially with so much funding under the IRA coming for home electrification, it would be a good opportunity to partner with other organizations that are kind of thinking about that home energy footprint.
Yeah. Well, it's been exciting to see how the infusion of capital from Mitsui backing Solstice has allowed you to expand in these new markets and also bring the level of community organization and activation that is part of the DNA of Solstice into places like Minnesota and Illinois. Thank you for helping us better understand the LMI market and both how to get and keep subscribers in these programs.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always great to chat.